What's up YouTube, Saf here on Super Saf TV, and this is my full hands-on review of the Motorola Moto G 2015 3rd generation. This is the budget offering from Motorola, which is also their best-selling device, something which I only learned of recently. Now, I have not used a Motorola G device before, so any of the previous generations, and I am coming to it fresh, so hopefully you will get a different perspective compared to some other reviews. So getting straight into it, initially the phone actually looks pretty good in my opinion. I like the curved design, and although it's plastic, it doesn't feel cheap in any way. It's also comfortable to hold. I like the grippy texture on the back, which can be customized and replaced by the way, as can the metal accent which has the signature Motorola dimple. The phone is also IPX7 water resistant, which means you can fully submerge this into water up to 1 meter for 30 minutes, which is a great thing to have, and I wish all smartphones had this. There's a single front-facing speaker at the bottom, so after I mentioned this in my unboxing, a lot of you were asking for me to confirm this, as some of you thought there was dual front-facing speakers, but that is not the case. Now don't get me wrong, it's a nice speaker and front-facing is always good. Now let's talk about the display. You've got a 5-inch IPS LCD panel which has 720p resolution, so around 294 ppi pixel density. It's a decent screen and should be fine for most people. Coming from a Quad HD display myself, I did obviously notice a step down, but it's perfectly usable. And having 720p actually seems like a great choice, as this definitely goes towards the battery life. Speaking of battery life, you have 2470 milliamps and it's great. I didn't get the 6 hours on screen time like some other YouTubers. I was hitting more in the range of 4 to 5 hours, but I really don't think most users will have a problem getting through the day on this. One thing I do wish this had is fast charging. Not a big deal if you are just charging overnight, for example, but it would have been nice to have. Now before we move on to the speed and performance, I have to mention that there are two versions available of this, one with 8GB of storage and 1GB of RAM, and the other with 16GB of storage and 2GB of RAM. So obviously performance will differ, even if only slightly, between the two, and I have the 16GB model here. Both can be expanded however, with a micro SD card slot available, but only up to 32GB. The models also come in at different prices. In the US you're looking at $180 for the 8GB version or $220 for the 16GB version. You can customize these at no extra cost, which is great. In the UK, however, the situation is slightly different. If you want the base 8GB model from somewhere like Amazon, you're looking at £159, but if you want to customize it from the motor maker, you'll be paying £179. So not only is this quite a bit higher than the US in pricing, but also you'll be paying to have the option of customization here. The 16GB version is priced at £209. Now this raises the question, considering something like the OnePlus One is going for £179 for the 16GB version, which has generally higher specs all around and is available to buy right now, how budget is the Moto G in the UK? Now moving on, both Moto G versions have the Snapdragon 410 processor with the Adreno 306 GPU, and on my 2GB RAM version, performance has been pretty smooth overall. An occasional app crash here or there, but nothing major. I do think this comes down partly to the software. You've got Near Android Lollipop 5.1.1 with some useful Motorola features such as the double chop to activate the flashlight or the double twist to activate the camera, and a Moto Assist which will detect where you are and adjust the phone accordingly. So for example, only giving you priority notifications when you are at work. Finally, touching on the cameras, you have a 13MP rear-facing camera which has the same sensor as the Nexus 6 last year, and a 5MP front-facing camera. I have covered these in detail in my camera review, so do go ahead and check that out. That will be linked in the description below. And in summary, you have some pretty nice cameras here, especially for the price. So to conclude, the Motorola Moto G 2015 is a great phone overall in my opinion, especially if you are on a budget, but I really do hope they do something about the price of it in the UK, because in the UK you can go for other options at a similar price point which will offer you more. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then please do hit that thumbs up button for me, it really does help me out. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I've got plenty more content coming up on here, and you can also see my previous related video here in the annotations, and stay in touch with me over social media. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on Super Saf TV, and I'll see you next time.